Congratulations, all right? You're actually starting your meal plan now. And as you go through that process, like anybody when they start something new, you're gonna have some questions, all right? And the purpose of this video is actually to answer the majority of the questions that we get asked day in and day out. Hopefully when you first started the meal plan in those first 48 hours, a lot of the questions you initially had were answered at that time, all right? What's gonna end up happening is if you have questions that are not answered in this video, you are able to contact us and we will answer those questions. But due to the volume of the questions we get and things like that, it will take us a little bit of time to get back to us, all right? So please just keep that in mind. So from here, we're just gonna start diving into some of the questions. So Jamie, what are the top, whatever number of questions people are asking us? What do we have going on?
The first question is, can I change the carb cycle days?
Can you change the carb cycle days? Yes, you can, all right? You can change the carb cycle days, but a lot of that stuff's gonna depend on you. Just like the whole meal plan, everything's predicated around you. So it really comes down to why would you want to change those days around? The moral of the story is we'll keep it really simple. I don't want to complicate it on you. If there's 7 days in a week, there's going to call for X number of high carb days, X number of low carb days, X number of medium carb days, and things like that. You want to still have the same amount, okay? So if you're going to switch things around, just make sure at the end of the week, when you look at what you did, you still did the same amount of high carb, low carb, medium carb kind of days, okay? So please keep that in mind. However, before you start getting all creative, make sure you apply a little bit of common sense to that, for lack of a better term, where if you know you're gonna be training or not training, do you really wanna switch those days around? Make sure the logic justifies the reason, okay? Before you go ahead and do those kinds of things. Because sometimes for some people, there's many schools of thought. Well, if my carbs should be higher on days I don't train because I'm using those carbohydrates to restore glycogen and I'm gonna, build more muscle. Yeah, there's gonna be 80 articles that tell you that. But common sense tells a guy like me that, hey, on the days I'm not training, I don't really want those carbs because I'm not gonna be burning those carbs. I'd rather time those carbs like it is in my meal plan around when I'm actually training on those days. So kind of keep that stuff in mind. So what else questions that people ask?
How do I weigh my food?
It's very easy. Do not use your body scale, all right? You're not gonna wanna take that and weigh your 25 pounds of top round for my 300-pound wannabe bodybuilders out there. You're not gonna wanna do that. What you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna have a little food scale that you can actually you have an electronic one, right? I have an electronic one. Ideally, we like them to be grams and ounces because depending on what you're weighing, it might call for it in grams, others might call for it in ounces. So try to have a scale that gives you that flexibility. And by weighing those foods, it's gonna allow you to really take the guesswork out of it and know you're doing the right thing every time, which is gonna make you feel good, and it's also gonna keep the results coming.
Sure, good job. How do I swap foods that I don't like?
Well, hopefully, as we put that meal plan together for you, you're gonna notice that most of the foods you didn't want aren't gonna be called for on there. While I'm thinking of this too, one thing to keep in mind is do not be surprised, and I bet she can vouch for this too, when you start making lifestyle changes and dietary changes, have you ever noticed that your taste buds change?
Big time.
And that you crave stuff?
Big
like,
time.
Or make it easy, not even dieting related. If and when you eat Chinese food, do you ever notice you're way more thirsty? Because your body's gonna communicate a lot of things to you when you go through the dietary process, okay? So moral of the story is, just because you don't like something now, don't be surprised if in 8 weeks you're craving, the weirdest thing I ever wanted was pancakes with peanut butter on it. I don't know why, I went through a stage, I don't even like either one of those things, but for some reason I went through a stage. Point is, do not be surprised if as you go through your process, if things you didn't think you like, all of a sudden start tasting a lot better because your taste buds do change out over time. So how do you switch stuff out? Very simple, all right? You look at the macro list that you're gonna have and say it's something like, well, Tony calls for fruit, but I hate mangoes, I like pineapples, whatever it is. You can look on here and you're going to be able to say, well, this one has this amount per serving, this one has this amount per serving, so I can switch those out. Don't get overly cute though. Don't try to switch out things like grains for fruits and things like that. The reason you don't want to do that is, I'm not going to get super scientific on you, but they are different kinds of carbs. And people will sometimes say, oh, because one's higher in the glycemic index than the other. That's true. They're going to have different blood sugar things. But something like a fruit sugar doesn't necessarily get utilized by the body the same way that a grain does, okay? These kinds of carbohydrates do different things for different organs, all right? So not gonna get into that for you. That's why it's been customized for you to make it really easy. But just make sure you stay within the particular realms. You don't wanna switch out meats for carbs, and you don't wanna switch out fruits for vegetables. So just make sure any changes you make, you do it within that list in your actual macro list. So what else do people ask?
Can I swap fruit for sweet potatoes?
Kind of piggybacks on what we just talked about. They may look the same color, they may whatever to you, but they are totally not the same, okay? If you have nothing else available to you, by all means, if you are stuck somewhere on a subway, in traffic, wherever it is you are, and you have nothing accessible to you, and all you have is that apple or that sweet potato, and you're supposed to be eating whatever, by all means eat it, okay? Because what happens is, and you know this probably better than anybody, when you don't eat, and then it goes hour after hour, your mind's gonna start playing tricks on you. And all of a sudden, you're eating things you shouldn't be eating, and it's gonna do different things to your body than you were hoping for. So if nothing else is available to you, by all means, take anything available to you that's on this list and use it however you need to, but ideally, try to stick within the lists like we talked about.
When can I drink BCAAs?
I think the real question is, when can't you drink BCAAs? The reality is you can drink BCAAs whenever you want to, all right? It depends on what you're doing though. If you're using something like some of our products, like an ADA, there's a lot of BCAAs in there, so you don't necessarily need to piggyback. You don't really need to combine those two. It's not necessary for most people. When would I take BCAAs? It's gonna depend a lot on your goals, okay? Well, when would you take BCAAs?
Usually intra-workout or post-workout.
Okay, that's when you like them, all right? So her goals would be totally different than mine, so that makes sense. Me personally, if I'm a guy trying to put on size and preserve muscle while losing body fat, my number one time of taking them would be definitely when I got up in the morning, because that's when I'm in a catabolic state and I want to turn the anabolic switch back on. So those BCAAs are going to do that for you instantly. That was, I've mentioned it before in previous videos, that was the number one thing I learned from one of the best nutritionists in the world who trains Mr. and Miss Olympia respectively. Get up in the morning, have BCAAs right when you get out of bed, okay? So keep that in mind. Also with that, I would also say you can take the BCAAs before, during, or after training, or in between meals. Ideally, that's what I would say for that. Any other questions that we have as far as people?
How many hours should I separate between each meal?
Great question. Somewhere in that 3 to 4 hour range. Obviously, this kind of piggybacks on to something else I was thinking about earlier today. We all, don't be fooled by these people you see that live this fitness lifestyle. Every person has things that get in the way. And one of the first observations I ever made a long time ago, you've been at expos, right? You've worked expos. I've worked a lot of expos. I was never more baffled than when you go to an expo with 300,000 people and you see all these people walking around, all right? Walking around, all the patrons, the customers, if you will, and they all have food containers and they all have huge water jugs. And what I noticed is those people are all there to see the athletes. And you know what you see? You never see an athlete, the professional, with the water jug or the container. Now, don't get me wrong, they have their food containers and they have a water. You never even see them getting to sip on it, okay? The reason why is sometimes life's gonna get in the way of stuff. The moral of the story is try your best to execute something within that 3 to 4 hour range. But if you can't do it, it's not the end of the world. Do not worry about it. If you need to, take some of those portions, combine them together into other meals. It's just important that you try to get it in over the course of the day. The purpose of eating the food really consistently every 3 to 4 hours is really just to make sure we can control your blood sugar levels so you don't get cravings that basically come up later on in the evening and then you end up eating foods you really weren't craving. Right. So do we have any other questions?
Yes. What if my work schedule doesn't allow me to eat that often?
Well, piggybacked on what we just were talking about. So what's going to happen is, it's a great question. A lot of shift workers, maybe you're a driver, whatever the situations, even you, sometimes you're probably eating. People are going to come in and you're going to be interrupted with customers. So what you want to do is eat when you can, if needed, when things come up in the middle, take what didn't get eaten and combine it with something a little bit later on, even if it's later in the night. One of the better analogies I ever heard was you have to think of your metabolism as almost like a bank account, okay? Where every day when you're dieting, you're in the negative, okay? Every day, negative, 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 and week after week and month after month, you're developing a negative amount of calories. You're burning more than you're taking in. So one big meal or one big day of eating foods that you didn't plan on eating, guess what? It doesn't make a huge difference in the grand scheme of things because you've built up such a balance in there that it's okay to pull from it. Stay regimented, stay on your plan, but if and when there's moments where you deviate or life gets in the way, do not beat yourself up because it is purely mental. No one meal or no one bad day is ever really going to set you back that much.
Okay. I don't understand my meal plan. What should I do?
Well, hopefully within the first 48 hours, you hit us up and said, what the heck is going on? I'm not good with computers. I have to go old school and print the stuff out, okay? If you're pretty good with that, From there, if you're a little overwhelmed, reach out to us over that first 48 hours. If you have additional questions after that, hopefully something like these videos is helpful. Potentially you may even see people, because you're following us online through Instagram, Facebook, all that kind of stuff. You can reach out to us or other people affiliated with us for their information on it. People that have already our testimonials that are already out there, reach out to them for help. Or if need be, you can always reach out to us directly through email, and we'll do our best to get back to you as soon as possible. But it does take us a little bit of time, so be patient, because 9 times out of 10, your questions are answered by me directly. And for those of you who don't know, I handle a lot of operations for Steel Supplements and a lot of other stuff. So it does take me a little bit of time, but I like to answer all those directly so I can give you the answers to get you where you want to go as fast as humanly possible, because we've made that promise to you.
Where can I find some of the ingredients in my meal plan?
Great question. All right, that's another thing. Don't get too hung up on something. Let's say, for instance, it calls for, you know, I guess we'll go with zucchini or whatever it is. Obviously, you're going to try to start with something like your local grocery store. From there, you may have to, you know, reach out a little bit to a different grocery store that maybe specializes in something a little bit different. Maybe it's more of an organic store or something like that. But the nice thing is, moving forward now, more and more, we have a lot more access to people and companies willing to ship us stuff directly. So hopefully you'll be able to find what it is you're looking for, if not locally, somewhere that will ship it to you. If you can't do that, don't worry about it. You can always, once you exhaust all those options, and 99% of you are going to be able to figure all that out. If you don't, you can always reach out to us, and we can definitely come up with a suitable alternative for you. Once again, it's never going to be one little thing that's going to prevent you. If there's a trace amount of sodium in your black pepper, you know, seasoning that you buy, that's not going to prevent you from having a 10-pack on the beach. I mean, if I take a little pile of pink sea salt right now and I throw it on Jamie, she's not just going to turn into me. Okay, so we're good. All right. So what else do people ask?
What supplements should I be using?
Oh, that's totally based upon, you know, your goals and what you're looking for. What do I want to go with on that one? I'm going to do that one.
I would say, like, if you're looking for like weight loss, I would go to like the Fat Loss Collection.
Okay.
And if you have questions, ask our live chat specialist.
Okay.
You know, if you're looking to, like, if you're trying to gain muscle, go to our like muscle section, like building section, performance section.
Okay.
And then all of those will result in, like, if you have questions, ask a live chat specialist.
Okay, so it is okay to me. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to talk about vitamin D3 or if I'm actually more steel here a little bit.
I would push steel.
Okay. Okay. Got it. I just want to ask. I figured I'd ask. Okay, cool. Easy enough.
So what supplements should I be using?
Okay, well, the first thing you got to do is always keep in mind what your goal is, okay? So the nice thing is a lot of our supplements, if you will, a lot of Steel supplements are actually made, there's a reason why we don't make 50 products, okay? Because you don't need to take 50 different things, okay? You need a couple core basic products that actually work well by themselves or work really well together. So it's really going to start with, what are your goals? If you're trying to build muscle, trying to preserve muscle, something like BCAAs are a really good idea. For that person that's really trying to gain muscle, you probably need something a little bit more calorically dense. So you're gonna need something like a whey protein. If you have allergies and you're sensitive to stuff, maybe you need a vegan or a plant-derived protein. So you're gonna have to you have to be a little bit creative as far as, and very clear about what it is you're looking for. So if you're looking to, you know, burn fat, you're trying to make a transformation as far as changing your body fat, something like the shredded stack may be a really good idea for somebody, all right? You're taking a shredded, which is a phenomenal fat burner, but it does a lot of other things, okay? Aside from the focusing agents and all that kind of stuff, it is an appetite suppressant. Have you noticed that with it?
Awesome.
Yeah, you can use it as an appetite suppressant, which I think is really good as someone who does a good amount of fasting on an occasional basis for detox purposes. So something like the shredded stack is a really good idea. For people that are actually trying to gain the maximum amount of muscle in the shortest period of time, if that guy's 20 years old, he probably doesn't need to use alpha. If he's 48 years old, maybe something like alpha would be a really good idea for him because his natural test levels aren't where they used to be. All right. Keep in mind, as you make dietary changes, your hormones are going to change too. Okay. So probably in a really good way, because as you start removing a lot of the preservatives and eating a lot less of the crap that's out there, your testosterone levels are going to come up, your estrogen levels are going to come down, and males and females are going to really notice a lot of benefits with that. So when you go to the website, all right, you can look at the performance stack, you can look at the shredded stack, you can look at the mass stack. Based on your goals, you'll be able to navigate where it is you're looking for. If it's still a little bit overwhelming, you can chat with our live chat specialist right there. There's a little box in the corner, or you can reach out to us through the email. And we'll happily steer you in a direction based off what you share with us as to what would probably be the best for you.
Can I drink coffee?
You can drink coffee. I don't drink coffee, but
I
yeah,
do.
yeah, you can definitely drink coffee. But how do you drink it?
Black, always black.
Okay.
But if you can't drink it black, you know, you can always add a little almond milk, things like that. Make sure it's all natural, organic.
Okay. Is there a particular, like, how do you do it? Because I honestly don't drink coffee, so I don't even know. Like,
Well, I try to get organic coffee.
okay.
I just throw it in my Keurig, drink it black, I'm good to go.
Oh, that's easy enough.
Yeah.
Okay, that was easy. I don't have any other questions about that. But definitely you want to stay away from the dairy because of the sugars and things like that.
Yes, yeah,
Do
absolutely.
you, for the people that go to drive-throughs or other major chains, as someone that lives that lifestyle, what's your thoughts on all of that?
Yeah, I don't really agree with ordering a latte or anything like that. But you could just ask for a black coffee, or if you get iced coffee, you know, a little water is fine, or a little almond milk, coconut milk. If you do want to go the whole milk route, make sure it's organic.
Okay, and while we're on that topic, just so you know, if you are going to be doing something like coffee, try not to take it with our products that have stimulants in them, okay?
Right.
Focused, charged, amped, all that kind of stuff. We got a lot of cool verbs that basically describe a lot of stuff we make. So yeah, please keep that in mind. You're going to want to definitely not combine stimulants, all right? What other questions do people have?
How many veggies should I eat?
How many veggies should you eat? Well, my rule of thumb is if they're green, you can eat as many as you want to. Now, it may call for a specific amount in the macro list book, which is totally fine. But if you're overly hungry and you want to eat, one of the big things I used to tell people when I would train them all the time was, hey, if you're really hungry, oh, I get hungry at night, Tony. Okay, that's fine. Take a head of lettuce, chop it up, and throw some olive oil and red wine vinegar on there. You won't be hungry anymore.
That's what I do.
So yeah, so you can eat as many greens as you want, right? And for actually all vegetables in general, for the most part, you can really eat whatever you want to, and no one's gonna have a problem with that just because there's so many benefits of it. But especially the greens, eat all you want. The alkalinity in there is phenomenal for the body, especially when you're consuming meats. It's gonna make the digestion process a lot easier and the dieting a lot easier too.
Can I meal group? So can I eat multiple meals at the same time?
Can you meal group? Well, it depends. I mean, the immediate answer would be ideally no, because if you get up in the morning and you have, 4 out of 5 meals or something like that, it's going to be a long 24 hours. And then the other person might say, well, I miss a couple meals throughout the day, and can I eat my whole last 3 ones at night? I mean, ideally, I still want to see you get all the food in, but use common sense. It's one of those things, if you don't get to eat for 8 or 10 hours, which would be horrible, don't feel the need to eat 4 meals all at one time. If you know you're going to have some stuff coming up and you're not going to be able to be overly regimented that day, just split the meals up as much as you can so you still consume the food, but still try to get it in, but within reason.
Okay. Can I drink alcohol?
Can you drink alcohol? If you are over the age of 21, absolutely. A couple things we're going to talk about with alcohol, though. We'll start with the caveats for fat loss. People, in my opinion, have got this totally wrong over the years. People always say, oh, I heard I can't drink alcohol. There's a lot of reasons why I'd rather you not be drinking alcohol frequently. Actually, you do what you want, but know why the alcohol is not always the best idea. What's going to happen is typically when people drink alcohol, they drink it later in the day, hopefully, not in the morning, but teach their own. They drink it later in the day, and what ends up happening? They drink it later in the day, they're going to go to bed. And when do we lose most of our weight? We lose it when we sleep, all right? And when you go to sleep at night and there's alcohol in your system, you don't metabolize fat nearly as well, and that's when you lose weight, so you're going to miss out on fat burning. On top of that, it actually prevents the conversion of testosterone, which for males and females is a problem. If your hormone levels aren't balanced, it's going to be a hell of a lot harder to lose weight. On top of it, when people drink alcohol, generally speaking, I've been to a few pubs in my life, people tend to eat bad. So you got those other 2 factors going on. Now when you're drinking the alcohol, you're going to be eating, and now you're going to be sleeping, and you're not able to burn the fat because you have alcohol in your system. So not only are you not burning the fat that you would have burnt naturally, now you have all this extra fat in your system that your body has nothing to do with. So, and plus you got the dehydration factor, plus you're probably not going to train as much the next day, plus, thank you, the sugars that I knew I was forgetting one, plus the sugars and the calories and that stuff. So moral of the story is, if you are going to be drinking, try to drink things like the red wines like we talk about, like are in the guides there. Also, you were mentioning before you like to do the vodka.
Vodka water.
Vodka water. I actually do the same kind of thing. Vodka on the rocks with a couple limes, that's great too. So try to do it. When you do it in moderation. Try to use a little common sense, but also understand of how it gets in the way of your goals. And by you understanding that a little bit more, hopefully you'll be able to use it in moderation so you can still have fun and have a life.
Can I eat Quest bars? And if I don't like them, can they be swapped to something else?
Yeah, you can definitely eat Quest bars. I mean, bars are not the greatest thing in the world. They're not the worst thing in the world. They've certainly got a lot better tasting in the last 15 years. You know, I mean, now you can even go into a gas station and there's 20 or 30 different bars out there. Just understand that bars are not they're not a suitable long-term replacement for meals, but they're great in a pinch. I mean, I actually have one here with me now. So I don't actually use the Quest bar because I do live more of a plant-derived lifestyle. I believe you do too. So you tried the no-cal bar. I got you. I have a lemon one for you actually. So yeah, I got to give you that lemon one. I'm forgetting about that. So I actually like a no-cal bar or something like that. But you can use a Quest bar. Just really watch the sugar alcohols. Really watch the sugar content. And the ingredients on there for sure. There's a lot of little things to look for, but if you stick to a no-cal bar, a Quest bar, Up Bar makes a pretty good bar. Those ones are the ones I've really liked over the years, and you can put them in the microwave too a lot of times. That's a nice way to change the consistency. And I used to put a little bit of coconut whip on there like that, and that was good. Yeah, that was pretty good.
How do I meal prep?
How do you meal prep? Oh, Jamie, I'm gonna have you start with this one because you're the king of meal preparation. So, what are your keys for meal prepping? Like, what are your? How do you do it?
Well, first I chop all my vegetables and throw them to the side, prep them. And then I get my meats, and then I get my rice or my potatoes. And I batch cook everything, so it's super easy.
How do you cook the meats?
Usually my husband will grill them, but you can also, you can throw them in the oven. You can throw them in some boiling water.
Do you cook it 3 days in advance? Realistically for you guys, how long do you cook it up for in advance?
Well, probably every 3 days.
Okay.
But you can cook it, once a week. It tends to lose the freshness, which I prefer it to be more fresh.
Yep.
So I make time.
Okay. And then you portion everything out in advance and everything like that. And that's pretty much how I used to do it too. I still do. I mean, now pretty much everything is just vegetables, so there's not really that much prep. But that being said, how I used to do it is I would do the same thing. I actually like to do it every 3 to 3.5 days is how I would do it. But there were periods where I'd have to cook up stuff in bulk. When I would compete, especially when I had to travel, to the other coast, what I would do is I'd prep all the food in advance, including the rice and the steak or whatever I was eating, and I'd weigh them all out. And like you, I'd put them in Ziploc bags, and I'd actually push out all the air, roll them up. And what I would do is I would actually, I learned this from a bikini pro, a friend of mine. What I would do is I'd have 3 days worth of food, and then I'd roll up all the other ones in the Ziplocs, and I'd stuff them in the freezer. And when I would travel, I'd use those as ice packs. So I'd use my own food to keep the other food cold. And that's not a bad idea. For those of you that have cooler bags and things like that, you don't need these massive containers. That's just more dishes you gotta clean, more stuff you gotta do, all right? Have one fork and knife, wrap it in a paper towel, have all that stuff prearranged for you in the Ziploc bags. Use that stuff to keep the one container cool, and then you can pull it from there. But cook everything in bulk. I used to, when I did steak, I used to use it all in a toaster oven. That was always the easiest way for me. I would set it on broil, and I'd do, I think, 8 minutes one side, 7 minutes the other side, with a little bit of seasoning on it, and that was good to go. So cook your stuff in bulk, ideally in glass containers, just because you'll have a little bit less plastic secretion most of the time. So,
can my friends and family join in on my meal plan?
Can your friends and family join in on your meal plan? That's a great question because people do that a lot. People see someone having changes. People see someone gaining momentum in their own lives. They see their energy changing, and people always want to be a part of that. Yep. And I'm sure you've seen that.
My husband did that.
Okay, yeah, people want to be part of it. Right. Yeah, so, but that being said, you and your husband aren't going to have the same meal plan.
Right, absolutely.
So that would where it would get a little bit different. So although with your metabolism, you may actually be able to eat more than him.
Quite a bit.
See, I didn't even think of that as we're doing it. So yeah, interesting. So the moral of the story is every two people are different. So if someone feels really inclined to kind of jump in and doing a little bit of what you're doing, by all means, jump in there and get going. I'd rather see somebody get going. Just keep in mind that it really is been customized for you. So based on your lifestyle, your genetic predispositions, what you like, what you don't like. So they can definitely try some of it out, but they probably won't necessarily have the same results you will as quickly as you will because it was totally based upon you.
Can I still dine out at a restaurant? For
sure. You're still allowed to have a life. There are a select few who just live in a gym and don't go anywhere else or jog on a bridge and don't go anywhere else. They are out there, okay? But do not be fooled by these people who tell you that, oh, this is what I do every day. And no, these people don't exist, okay? These are unicorns, okay? It doesn't work that way, all right? The only way to be able to do this for your whole life is you still have to have one. You know, and a lot of times the people who are best at it are the people, consistency rules the game. in this, in my opinion, more than anything else. So no one changes don't happen overnight. They start happening overnight, and after 10 days, you'll really see them. But they come over the years as muscles mature, as fat loss stays off a body, things just, I'm sure you've seen it when you're on, but it just tightens more, it tightens more, it tightens more. So you can definitely still have a life. And these lists here that are comprised for you are actually gonna help guide you through that process. So let's say your meal called for, we'll keep it easy. We got some awesome, delicious food in front of us right here. So we got some top round, it looks like, with some roasted red peppers, some spinach, and a hard-boiled egg. Well, you want to go out to eat. You don't want to necessarily have to make that, but maybe this isn't on the menu. But I can look at that and you kind of use the old rules of thumbs where I say, well, because I've already been weighing my own food, I can say, wow, they gave me a huge baked potato. Hopefully you got it plain or whatever you got on the side. And you can say, well, I've been weighing my own food, so I know that looks like about 9 ounces of sweet potato versus the 4 I'm supposed to be eating. So you kind of know that's where the scales come in handy. And you'll learn so much about other businesses. I mean, I remember you make an 8-ounce burger, and then when I go to a restaurant and get an 8-ounce burger, I'm like, this is not an 8-ounce burger. This is 8-ounce burger pre-cooked weight times 7. Yeah, so yeah, you'll be like, I got porked, so I'm gonna go home and make my own food. So that's what you'll learn from anything. What I have learned through the dining out process, though, is to answer your question, yes. But what people don't realize is, we'll go a little bit further, and I don't know if I've probably noticed this. I can't go out to eat as much as I used to, not because I don't want to, but unfortunately, a lot of large chain restaurants, they inject water and preservatives into the meat, so it makes it bigger. So they can actually, once again, sell you 6 ounces, and it technically weighs 6 ounces, but 2 or 3 of those ounces actually come from preservatives. All right, now it keeps the food longer and it actually makes the colors look great. The problem is your digestive system, once you start making these lifestyle changes, it's gonna wreak havoc on you. So of course you can go out to eat, absolutely. And you can use the guides to help you through that process. But what you'll probably find is you'll actually start wanting to go to places where the food's still really fresh, because you'll notice that you still feel really good on it. You'll be able to digest it really well, and you'll still get really good gains if you're trying to build muscle or if you're trying to burn fat. Because I noticed I didn't gain as much quality muscle if I was eating out when I owned my own supplement store, when I was eating out all the time, because the quality of the meats wasn't as good.
Okay. What about spices? Can I use them?
Absolutely, you can use spices, and even every once in a while, if you use something that has a little bit extra salt in it, it's not the end of the world, all right? I'd rather you still enjoy the food you eat, but absolutely, there's gonna be a lot of spices and things that are called for in the list. Use those things, use the spices. A lot of times spices are really good for us. And while we're on the topic earlier of vegetables, by all means, I'm sure you season some of your foods with greens, you know? Yeah. I mean, there's nothing better than putting some fresh herbs or pre-dried ones on your stuff. It makes everything taste a hell of a lot better. Yeah, for sure. I'd say out of all my favorites, I mean, I like basil. We got the Italian thing going on, but the, which one, what do you use the most of?
I like cilantro and garlic.
Yeah, garlic's good. Garlic and cilantro is really good. I don't like thyme, though. I don't use thyme. Thyme's the only one I can't get into. It's just not my thing. Bay leaves either. I don't know, no offense, but that's not my thing. So, yep. All right, I guess that's going to wrap it up for you. Once again, if you have any questions, hopefully we covered them all. If you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to us through the live chat specialist or through email, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So thank you.